I do love people watching at airports. It's wonderful. You've probably seen my grumpy old blog that I wrote, but there's people that are quite happy to shout out all sorts of personal information when they find their flight on the flight board. Not just the flight, they shout out where they're going, where they've come from, what they're bringing with them, and they have this stance, this peculiar sort of stance with the look. I can't do it because it's sort of a selfie business, but it does make you laugh. And then the ones on the Ryanair, I saw somebody running for a Ryanair flight, and yes, they were running for a Ryanair flight, but they were sort of loaded up with all sorts of nonsense that they don't really need, that they bought in the airport. And Dublin Airport and duty free is an oxymoron. It just doesn't happen. I mean, I know I'm an addict, and I've said it many times before, to Barry's tea, but I'm not prepared to pay €8.25 for 80 Barry's tea bags and drag them all the way back from Dublin, when I can nip on the tram to Altrincham, and if I'm there any sort of day, and I get them for much the same price in sterling. So it's only in essence a sort of 10% difference, if that. And they're loading up with all the stuff they buy and perfumey stuff, and you can actually see on the labels that it's only claimed to be €5 in the small print, €5 cheaper than on the high stores in Dublin. They're being honest in that respect, but these people don't seem to pay any attention to it. And as for the price of books in Smith's, I was gobsmacked. And you can see here Harlan Coben's new one. Just look at the price difference. See the price difference up here? Duty free. And Jack Daniels. I don't drink a lot because of having had an ulcer, so I take it easy. But the Jack Daniels 1 litre is, here in duty free, works out 40 pence sterling less than buying it in Asda. Duty free? Don't think so. It's hilarious, by the way. Oh, please note, look, I am not using the travelator, I'm walking. I had someone behind me very much in Mark Lebet the Beast's sort of manner, talking about going to our gate, which is free, free, free. And then over the tannoy came the announcement, it being Dublin Airport, go to gate tree, tree, tree. So you get the best of both worlds at Dublin Airport, it seems. Well, grumpy old Git has made it to the terminal exit. Well, it's a terminal and it's exit. Well, I don't know anyway. But I've made it without being thrown out of the airport, which is quite unusual for me, seeing as I don't call a spade an uplifting implement made of steel and wood. I just call it a spade. The airport's not madly busy, so it's quite pleasant, but lovely stay, to be honest. And here's proof I was not pulling your leg about going from gate 333, or as they say in London, free, 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 or as they say here in Dublin, tree, tree, tree. There you go. Do you believe me now? They're about to make some sort of boarding announcement, I think, so I shall sit here and watch everybody jump up like sheep and run, not realising that, well, they've got their own seat, the plane won't leave without them.
And rows 1 to 10 for Manchester.
There we are, you see Air Club and rows 1 to 10. I don't even know what row I am. Oh dear, boarding Jobsworths getting very stroppy. It seems somebody from row 14 tried to sneak in on the rows 1 to 10. Oh, she's getting very annoyed. I won't sort of show you it, or show you her, because it's not fair. Might break GDPR or GFGH or HIJK, whatever it is. Oh, silly me, I am an Air Club member, and they've called Air Club members to go with rows 1 to 10, but do you think I care? I'm just happy to sit here and finish my coffee. Well, you can see I'm back in one piece in Manchester. Very good flight. Lovely when the airport is empty. Well, both airports are empty, and very upset with Northern Trains, to be quite honest with you, because the 8:48 that I got aboard to go back home left at 8:48, and this is just not good enough, a train leaving on time. So I'll be writing to the train service people tomorrow to ask for an explanation as to why the 8:48 train left at 8:48. I do love people watching around about, and I'm sitting on a Northern train at the moment, coming back from Manchester Airport, having been away for a few days in Dublin, and really, it's just quite amazing. The plane I was on was a small turboprop thing, run by Aer Lingus, and it was Aer Lingus branded, but it was run by one of their partners, so it only took 80 passengers, 2 on either side of the aisle, making 15 or 17 seats, so about 80 passengers. And it was lovely to be in just what I call a traditional aeroplane. But they had the usual, don't use your mobile phone while in the air business. And I can appreciate where they're coming from, but nowadays, really and truly, does it really affect, the workings of an aeroplane? But that's beside the point, though. It was a 40-minute flight, and it was well on time because there was a following wind. It was sorry for the break, just had to show my ticket to the young ticket inspector. They say policemen are getting younger. I think this lad is on a week off from school during the Easter holidays. But as I was saying, I don't quite get why some people, is it that inconvenient to put their phone away or switch it off for 40 minutes? The chap sitting beside me on the plane was messaging, presumably it was life-saving messaging, searching through his messages and his WhatsApps and all the rest of it, replying every 5 minutes, taking his phone out of his... I mean, what's so vital and life-saving that he couldn't wait for an hour? An hour's not long. I mean, he does presumably sleep for 6 to 7 hours a night and manages without his phone. Second thing was a lady of my years, I would say, on the other side of the aisle, and she was continually... She was in the waiting area with me in the airport, and her seat was opposite mine when we sat in the aeroplane. So that means she had my company, although we didn't really speak, for close on, I'd say, let's give or take, hour and 3/4 or so. She was constantly, now bearing in mind, and no reason why she shouldn't, she was of my era, she was swapping from TikTok to Instagram to LinkedIn to Facebook and WhatsApp as well, if I didn't mention that, continually. And she was scrolling through. Now please get your children away from the screen now. I'll give you a second. I'll count up to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She was scrolling through such utter unbelievable shite on TikTok and Instagram. Why didn't she pick up a book or a newspaper? I really don't get it. And then on the plane as well, another thing which the Jobsworths get involved with. I've noticed this before. A young lad in front of me, he pulled the blind down because while the weather was exceedingly sort of inappropriate, it wasn't nice weather, a little bit of sunshine was, so the rays were shining down, and they were shining through our side of the aeroplane. So he pulled the sunblind down halfway. Now, the chief steward, well, there's only 2 of them on board because it's a small plane, came along and got very stroppy with him, how he has to push it up while we're taking off. Has to be up while we're taking off. I was wondering, is it connected to the engine perhaps, or does it prevent the pilot from actually pulling a lever because the window blind on seat 14 is, connected to this blind and it won't take off otherwise? Now, listen, I do know the reason for rules, but this job's worthiness at times, it gets so, it really is so overbearing. Yes, you've got to have rules, I appreciate that. The other thing that makes me laugh as well is that when the plane stopped, a lot makes me laugh, I know, little amused the simple. When the plane stopped, I mean, the second it ground to a halt, everybody's up. Now, totally ridiculous because we had to wait for a bus to take us to the terminal. So they're all standing in the aisleway, and why? Just stay seated until we're ready to go. Makes very great sense, I would have thought. And they're standing uncomfortably because it was a small plane, which means that anybody over 5'9" probably had to do a Concorde, hunch themselves. I don't know what it is. It's, just the second something stopped, they're up. Same on buses and on trains. I mean, I guarantee you when this particular train gets into Piccadilly, if that's where people are going, they'll start standing up 83 miles outside Piccadilly. It's not 83 miles to Piccadilly from the airport, it's only 4 stops. In fact, it's not, it's 1 stop. While I was away in Dublin, another thing that did make me smile was I was looking at a sign in Pearse Street Station, and that's in the centre of Dublin. It's essentially a dart, Oh no, it's not a dart, it is a main line rail as well. But I was looking at this sign and it was in very complicated Irish, and it didn't have an English version on the other side. And as I did, I was looking at it and pulling funny faces, thinking, why on earth? A Garda, that's a member of the police force, came up to me and said, and he said, excuse me, sir. And I looked and he said, no, nothing wrong. I'm just curious as to why you're looking at that sign. And I said to him, well, I thought it was a bit ridiculous that to have this sign in this complicated manner in Irish when nobody's paying any attention to it, nobody reads it. Because I do know many, many years ago, you're going back 40, 50 years, to get into the Irish civil service, you had to have a very basic knowledge of Irish. Now, it wouldn't save your life in terms of chatting about it or chatting using the language, but you needed to have it. And now it's a little bit defunct, but there are so many people of different nationalities now in Ireland that you never used to see in Dublin when I was growing up. I mean, you had a couple of Indian restaurants and a couple of Italian restaurants, and that was it. You never saw anybody who what I would call was non-Indigenous, Irish or British, walking the streets. And now it's so multicultural, and there's so many visitors. I have never seen so many tourists as were in Dublin the few days I was there. I do appreciate that it's Easter week and people are on holiday. None of these people can read Irish, and none of these people are interested in the confusion of seeing Irish come first and then English afterwards. And people are standing around asking, even when the signs are in dual language, well, what does this mean? I can see how it works to a degree in Wales, because in North Wales they're quite nationalistic. And for instance, if you go to Wrexham, you will find that a lot of people could converse in Welsh with you if you could speak Welsh yourself. But the fact that the policeman agreed with me, and we had a little long chat about, well, I won't say long, I mean 4 or 5 minute chat about it, and he fully agreed, and he told me some of the little stories about what he finds a little bit sort of wrong with what's going on. But I just thought I'd mention it. Yes, so rant over.